Psycho killer, qu'est-ce que c'est? Better run, 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 run away. Oh, psycho killer, qu'est-ce que c'est? Better run, 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 run away.
And we welcome you to the post AEW Redemption edition of This Is Wrestling from the van. It is approximately 12:25 a.m. on Monday, July 27th, as we are driving home just in the city of Montreal, about 2 hours from the nation's capital, and that's the time we have to discuss AEW Redemption. It is in the books. Ali Versage alongside co-host, not a very good predictor, Zach McGibbon. How are you, Zach?
Well, I mean, we've established it long before. I don't know what else do you expect at this point. It's actually kind of on you at this point that you don't think I'm just going to turn it around. So one of the predictions was for a bit, but nonetheless, no, I'm looking forward. This is going to be cool just to have a whole bunch of different perspectives on the show because I'm fascinated to hear what people thought of this Redemption show.
In the back seat, we got Chris Holski, Steve MacKenzie. In the front seat, we have Tanner Reil and the superfan, Ben Soubliere. No one's getting the full introductions at 12:26 a.m. as we depart back to the nation's capital. But it's in the books, and we got a lot to talk about. The six-way ladder match for a shot at the International Championship kicked things off AEW Redemption, and in fact, all of the introductions were done before the pay-per-view started, and we all got to sing Jungle Boy, which was excellent.
Some of us did.
Yeah.
Some of us might have sat down when that was happening.
But that's just not right. So, Mike Bailey, Jungle Boy, Jack Perry, Commander, Beast Mordos, El Clone, and Zach.
Nick Wayne.
Thank you. See, that's a good host up there. Sends insider Tanner Reil picking you up.
He's staring right into my soul right now. This is a lot.
He was picking you up and putting it down. Okay, you don't love ladder matches. A lot of other people do appreciate them. What did we think? We're going to start up with you, Tanner, on just some thoughts on the ladder match that opened the show here tonight.
Yeah, it was good. It was a ladder match. There were big spots and big moments that happened. I liked some of the stuff, especially I'd say that Commander did. The tightrope walking makes for some unique moments. A couple of the table spots, I thought, like Nick Wayne especially, had a really good showing. But in the end, I think Speedball was the right choice. He gets the big hometown reaction. Looking forward to a good match between him and Kyle Fletcher, but I wouldn't say it stands out amongst all of the ladder matches of all time, but I'm also not dogging on it like the Toronto one last year where Hechicero was 3 steps behind everybody.
That's a good recall. You've also taken all of Zach's bits in your answer, which I very much appreciate.
No, I've got some thoughts. I'm not going to do the whole
right.
But I'm interested to hear people's thoughts.
Ben Soubliere.
I love ladder matches. I don't know what Zach's problem is. I really liked the lucha flair in this ladder match. I thought it gave us something that was a little bit different compared to previous ladder matches. And when I saw the people that were in this match, like, it was all people that had something to prove. Nick Wayne hasn't been on a pay-per-view in a long time. First time pay-per-view appearances, I think, for at least on the main card for Beast Mordos, Commander, and El Clone. So I was really excited to see what they would do. I thought El Clone was awesome, very innovative wrestler. Every time I see him wrestle, I think I want to see him wrestle more. And I just think about guys that I want to see him get in the ring with. So obviously Speedball, right choice, especially with it being in Montreal. Had a huge showing. Crowd was fully behind him. It was a great way to kick off the pay-per-view, or I guess the main card. I did like the whole getting the intros done during the buy-in or whatever they call it on HBO. I thought it kind of kept things moving, and that was kind of a theme tonight, is that even though it was a long show, they did do their best to try to keep things moving as best they could, and I thought starting the ladder match off on the main card without all the intros was a good choice.
I would concur with that, especially with 6 people that people don't really, like, they know them, but, like, to truly identify with some of those guys coming out with their own entrances on pay-per-view, I think it was a good call to do it before. What about you, Chris Holski in the back? Your thoughts on the opener?
Man, I'm amazed that I can remember anything that happened from a match that, what was that, about 48 hours ago that show started, right?
I think that's a general estimate, yeah.
Man, actually, I think that in terms of the purpose of what they were trying to do with it, mission accomplished. You've got a bunch of, well, let's face it, lower mid-card guys. Well, I think that I'm being a little bit harsh on some people in that match, but for the likes of Commander and El Clone and Nick Wayne, for example, you want to try to make guys look bigger than they were before, and I think that's true, especially of all 3 of those guys that I just mentioned. I was very impressed with El Clone, and just getting a look at how unorthodox and how unpredictable he is on offense. I thought he brought that to that match. Nick Wayne had the crap beaten out of him. That one spot that Tanner alluded to, where Commander, after one table spot, went back up to the top rope, tightrope walked all the way across the length of the ring, and then did the somersault plancha onto Wayne on the floor. That was unbelievable. But I think the best executed spot from that match was Wayne. His Phoenix splash off the ladder through a table was perfectly executed. That is as good of a top rope ladder move as I think I have ever seen before.
How many top rope ladder moves have you seen before? No, we're
All
not.
of them.
We are not.
All
we are
of them.
not answering that. Zach McGibbon, Steven, are you still here with us?
I'm still here. Yeah.
Okay.
Cognizant.
Well, I looked back and I'm like, guy's got his eyes closed already. But
No, I'm not tired.
you have never seen a ladder match live, so
I have not.
Interested in your thoughts on what you saw tonight as somebody who has not experienced that before.
I thought it was good. I mean, and it's no offense to Zach, I didn't listen to him either. I think his disdain for ladder matches is a deep discussion for another day.
Right.
But I thought, no, I was impressed with some of the creativity and the way the boys were, willing to put their bodies at risk. Because it's, say what you like. There was, it went above and beyond what I thought it'd be. Because yes, they are, they're going to try and climb it and fall down, and like, how creative can you get? I thought they did a good job, and then to kind of put the bow on the president at the end, to have the hometown kid, win it.
Speedball Mike Bailey wins it. Yep.
And so that was smart on their part too. It was well executed.
Crowd went nuts for him.
Yep.
Of course.
Yeah, they're very much behind him. Just quickly for me, I thought it was okay. I think guys do put their bodies on the line and don't get enough credit for doing that in those spots, but at the same time, this one felt disjointed for me. It felt, get ready for a spot, I gotta move out of the way because somebody else is coming in to get ready to do their spot, and it just didn't feel like it's just not a natural match. It's really hard for people to get into that natural wrestling match in a ladder match. I thought it was good. The right guy won, Speedball Bailey. Crowd was very happy. He gets his match. This, Zach, unfortunately for me, a little bit agreeing with you that this will be just another ladder match in the history of professional
Ladder
wrestling.
matches.
But I do look forward to hearing, we all look forward to hearing your thought on the opener, the 6-way ladder match, Zach. Strap in.
I mean, look, I'll start with the positives. I will say I thought Nick Wayne looked really good. He's been somebody I've always been high on, even when he debuted in AEW. He's still so young, and there's so much that could be built upon with him. And like what Holski mentioned, that Phoenix Splash was something that I was like, whoa, that did kind of get me. And the other one with Commander doing the rope walk. But man, guys, I've seen this stuff 1,000 times at this point. Like, you're not going to believe this, but they made a ladder contraption. They made a ladder bridge, and you're not going to believe this. There was another destroyer spot in the ladder match, and you're not going to believe this. They tipped the ladder over, and they all fell onto the top rope.
Now, did it surprise you that it was not the Canadian that did the Canadian destroyer, though?
What do you mean?
Well, it was Jack Perry, right?
Well, yes. Well, it's a destroyer in Montreal, not a Canadian destroyer, but it was all the same spots that I've seen 1,000 times. And the big problem with this is that this match stipulation, I'm not inherently against the idea of a ladder match. It's just it's been done to death so many times. And I understand from Steve MacKenzie's standpoint, this is kind of his first time watching, and you're seeing all these spectacular spots for the first time. If I was seeing that for the first time, I would also be blown away. But I'm coming at it from a perspective of I've seen too many ladder. If we could put a moratorium on ladder matches for the next 5 years, I'd be the happiest man in the world. So look, was it bad? No, it was not a bad match. But have I seen these spots 1,000 times? Yes. To go to your point, Lee, about there was no connective tissue. It felt like we were getting into spot, and it was very evident for me when Speedball came in the first time, and people were going crazy, but he's like, no, I got to do my spot with Beast Mordos first, then went over. It's like, no, that's not a connective tissue thing. So was it a bad match? No. Was it the right winner? Yes. I'm so glad I'm in this car and not talking about a Jack Perry victory. Thank the Lord. They got it right in terms of the victor, crowd pop and all that, but it was all right.
And again, we've said this a million times, but when you see a ladder match, one of the things I do not want to see ever is someone standing on the ladder with the contract or whatever they're trying to get the title well within reach and simply not reaching for it.
Yeah.
We didn't get as many of the slow run-ups the ladder, like, oh, I'm gonna run up the ladder, I gotta go slow because the guy who's gonna get me isn't quite there yet, so I'm gonna go really slow. We didn't see a lot of those, but we did see many times because they brought that huge ladder in, and when people got to the top, the contract was right there, and Jack Perry was standing there beside it.
Yeah,
and it's like, why don't you just grab it? So the logic of some of these ladder matches don't connect with me. And I also didn't understand, so there's a big ladder under the entranceway, well out of the ring and well away from where that contract is. But everyone just made their way up and everyone stood there for a long time. Well, not one, but two people did moves off the top of the ladder.
Yeah.
And it just felt, wow, this feels very like overwritten and like everyone's got to be in this spot and no one's quite there yet, so I didn't love it, but the right guy won, and we transitioned right into, and I think it surprised us a little bit, Will Ospreay, Jon Moxley, and the Young Bucks second on the card. And this kind of continued some of the momentum. Chris Holski, let's get some first thoughts on Will Ospreay, Jon Moxley lose to the Young Bucks, and I don't know, I'm guessing nobody had the Young Bucks in this car in the pick'em pool.
No, I don't think so. I don't think anybody necessarily had that match going on second of the night, especially after the ladder match when that came out.
I know that some of us had it not going on last.
That's somewhere close to it. That's actually, I thought, was something that was odd about the show overall, is that the first three matches, even the fourth one when they had everything lined up for the chain match tonight, we'll get to that eventually, but I couldn't believe after the ladder match, okay, we're getting to the Young Bucks and Ospreay and Moxley already, and then the match after that, I thought the same thing. The match after that, I thought the same thing. I liked a lot of the early psychology where it seemed that Ospreay and Mox were outmatched, where they're not as solid of a tag team as the Young Bucks are. They're not as experienced. That's something that I've appreciated, I think, in in pro wrestling booking that you don't always see. Now that we see so many super teams that get thrown together into tag team title matches or something like that, and they immediately compete with an experienced tag team, I don't like when that happens. So I appreciate the way they set this one out. I had not been following closely enough some of the issues involving the concussion. And so that confused me a little while, but when I started to pick up on it, I thought that the match ended up being very good. I was thinking it could have been the best match of the night, but I think at the end of the night that it's maybe I think it's a solid number 3. I think there were 2 matches that I liked a lot better than it, but still a good tag match.
I'll just put out a theory before we get to our next thoughts on this match. So the theory, Chris, for I think Will Ospreay going on 2nd and Kyle Fletcher going on 3rd, to me would have been those are 2 of your very, very big stars in the United Kingdom, where All In is going to be. And if you fast forward the clock, that pay-per-view started at midnight in London, and trying to get Ospreay on and Fletcher on before people go to bed, if they are staying up, they want to see their guys, and they're not staying up all night. Now, that's a bit of a long shot theory, but when I was watching it, I'm going, I'm confused too by the way that they're mapping this out. And to me, the next pay-per-view, the big pay-per-view, their WrestleMania All In, is coming up in Wembley at London, in London, England. They want, if those people are watching to find out, they want to see their guys, and they don't want to wait till 6 a.m. London time to be able to do it. So that is somewhat my theory. Benjamin Soubliere, your thoughts on how they map this one out with the concussion storyline and the fact that the Bucks get the victory after Will Ospreay does hesitate to finish the job and they end up losing.
Yeah, I'm as much as I picked Moxley and Ospreay to win the match, I did him and Haw because I thought just the way that this card was shaping up, that you wanted to space out potentially what was happening in the main event or after the main event and what was going to happen in this tag match. So as shocked as I was that when the match ended, I thought that something like that could very well happen. And I think that all of this has been a really good case of like long-term storytelling. When you think about how early on in this feud between Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay, Jon Moxley's been involved in. If you think back to, the original match between Ospreay and Omega in Toronto, there's callbacks to that. And it's just, in terms of the structure and the storytelling, I thought it was a really good match. I think my expectations were probably a little too high for what I thought the match would end up being. When you look at Young Bucks versus Ospreay and Swerve from All In last year, that was a match of the year contender. I would not call this match a match of the year contender, even though I thought it did a lot of really good stuff to advance the storyline.
Steve, you are a guy that really hasn't seen these guys live in action. I was telling you about the Young Bucks being, one of, if not the greatest tag team around right now, and certainly Will Ospreay and Jon Moxley at the top of their game. Any quick thoughts on this match?
Nothing better to tell than what was said. Like I was, okay, yeah. The talent was in a way better than I thought it'd be. There was some stuff that I'm picking it apart that was forced. Timing's off a little bit. If anything, as a newer viewer, not that it was the longer it went, the kind of more predictable it started getting, and that one was
right.
Anyway, I get it. You had a lot of eyeballs on you, but some stuff could have been shortened down.
Yeah.
But overall, I was impressed. Again, it was.
They do go the pay-per-views. They do give way more time than TV matches to sort of tell stories. Tanner, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I enjoyed this match a lot. This was my first time seeing Will Ospreay live, so I was definitely zeroing in on him the most in this match.
Can I quickly mention something? I think we were all upset that Will and Mox entered to the Death Riders theme.
Yes.
I think everybody wanted to hear Will Ospreay's music, and probably in the entire arena.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely
They
second
played it
that
at
as
the
well.
very end when everybody was leaving.
Yeah, but we didn't get like the Ospreay,
No.
Ospreay.
Yeah.
I think we all
That was
wanted
very
that.
disappointing for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, just zeroed in on him a lot in this match, and like he lives up to the hype. He's the best wrestler in the world, in my opinion, and everything he does from like a power bomb just looks so much better than everybody else. But I think, like you guys mentioned, I expected a little bit more from this match. It didn't quite hit that next gear. Ben mentioned the All-In match with the Young Bucks against Swerve and Ospreay. I also think back to like the Bucks and the Golden Lovers a number of years ago, how good that was.
Yep.
And I just wouldn't put this one on that same level, but I thought it was still one of the better matches on the card in the upper half, but not the match of the night that I was expecting it to be. I did really enjoy the finish with the miscommunication and the Young Bucks winning with like the repeated super kicks, a little bit less predictable than like hitting their finisher and all that. And obviously the big tie-in is the angle that happened at the end of the night, which I know we'll get to in a little bit.
Tanner, how many super kicks were there in this match?
That's a great question. I do remember. So on our pick'em card, the over/under we set at 10.5. I believe our final count was 22.
Yes.
Almost all of them at the end. Like,
Yes.
And we it's kind of been an ongoing joke, right? That like you can't set the count high enough. So each pay-per-view it's gone up. And did anybody pick the under on that?
No, I will always go over when it comes to super.
I always
So-
take the over.
I did it for the bit.
Oh, don't. No.
Zach,
No.
I did it for the bit.
You can't make fun of me for it and then try and use it as your own defense.
You just
Yeah,
sloughed
that's-
off the Ciampa thing like, oh, yeah, I picked him, but
I said
like,
it
I lost
on the
again.
show.
I
was
lost
like-
again, but, you know, I did it for the bit.
I did do it for the bit. I even said it on the show. I
You,
did it
you
for
can't, then I can do it. If you can do that,
But
I
you
can
can't
do
make
it
fun
too.
of me for it then.
Zach, I did it for the bit.
There you go. That's fine.
I
Just
did
like
it for
I did
The Rock.
I did for the Rock. So
Can't set the
anyways,
over. You know what? I was actually feeling quite comfortable about 3/4 of the way through this match with the super kicks at like 1.
yeah, and then they really just
yeah, it
spammed
didn't
a lot
go
of it
well
at the end.
after that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.
Quickly, how do people feel about the concussion, head trauma in a match? Are we fine with that?
I have no problem with stuff to be used for a storyline. My issue wasn't even really the concussion stuff. It's something that I have been preaching about on the show, is that when you're in there, and I look at it as like a combat sport sort of deal, when you're in there to beat your opponent. And if the referee is allowing you to continue, now they did try to incorporate some of those spots. They were bringing in the referee, like Ospreay was bringing in the referee and saying, hey, can you check him, make sure, and blah, blah, blah. But it started to delve too much for me into I can't hit my move against the other wrestler. And it's just not a story I really love. And it's been something that there has absolutely been some long-term storytelling with the Will Ospreay story that I've liked. I've liked the stuff with the Death Riders and trying to find that killer instinct. But some of the ways that they've gone about it has not been something for my personal taste when it comes to analyzing pro wrestling. But to answer your original question about, I have no problem with it because I understood what they were going for with the story. I understand there's a lot that comes with, but I feel like if all the competitors are okay with it, then I should be all right with that, personally.
The other thing I did like about the ending of this match is that you knew the Young Bucks were going to be involved in the tag team title match at All In.
Yep.
So them getting a big win to solidify their spot makes a lot of sense.
And the booking made more sense as the show went on near the end because they really turned this into a whole show-wide storyline. So, yeah, I mean, the match itself, to put it really in perspective, this was a storytelling match. Like this, they were trying to accomplish a progression in the story, and they used it with 2 high-caliber star, in this case, 2 tag teams. So I think, obviously, the expectations were set high. I think sometimes when you're trying to go out and try to achieve a certain story, I think it's all right, but then it kind of limits what you actually can do in your peak, like what we saw with the next match that came after this one.
Let's go right to the Superfan for the next match. Kyle, the Proto-Star Fletcher.
Yes!
Say my full name. Defending his international championship against the Ring of Honor World Champion Bandito. And this is a bit of a shocker to me as well, that this match came out right after. Feel like they started pretty hot here, Ben. Your guy came out, and every time he comes out, he looks better and better and better.
Yeah, he is so good. So you have the Young Bucks and Moxley and Ospreay in a tag match with huge stakes that's really progressing the storyline, and somebody has to follow that. And Kyle Fletcher said, "Hold my Fosters. I got this, boss."
Oh, an Australian beer reference.
It's pretty big, I guess.
And Kyle Fletcher is where Will Ospreay was, I want to say maybe like 4 years ago. So, like, Ospreay was already a superstar when he faced Kenny Omega in Toronto. And even like a year before that was still, I think, if I'm getting my timelines right, he had his IWGP championship run. But like right before that time, when he was just like reaching that peak, I think that's where Kyle Fletcher is right now, in that he is one of the best wrestlers in the world, and we're watching him put everything together now. And he, like, the energy of the building, like, you just had a ladder match, you just had that tag match, like, it would have been really easy for the crowd to kind of like dip. Instead, you get Bandito and Kyle Fletcher going balls to the walls and just doing everything to keep that crowd and that energy high, and had match of the night for me. And Kyle Fletcher's crowd work in that match early on, because I think it's really easy to like Kyle Fletcher as like a competitor, because he's a really good wrestler. But what he's able to do with the crowd, like, he made the crowd cheer for Bandito. And Bandito is easy to cheer for in you know, on his own. Very likable wrestler, fantastic in the ring. But Kyle Fletcher has this ability that he's like really honing in on, that he can make the crowd, you know, chant at him and turn on him even when he's doing cool stuff in the ring. So for me, my MVP tonight, Kyle Fletcher. Match of the night for me, Kyle Fletcher and Bandito. Even though I didn't think it was a high chance that Bandito could win, just having that little bit of seed of doubt, so that when he hits something like the 21 plex, has you bite a little bit more, was good. Like, I really didn't think Kyle Fletcher was going to lose, but then I also thought, well, do you really need the international title in his match at Wembley? Probably you want it there, but I don't think you needed it. So for me, MVP of the night goes to Kyle Fletcher and Bandito for my favorite match on the card.
I would say yes, he needs that title for the AEW three-way dance act that they're going to do.
Thank you.
Not triple threat.
Not a triple threat.
Between Kazuchika Okada and Konosuke Takeshita. I love this match. I loved this match. And Bandito is one of those guys. As a Ring of Honor World Champion, he loses a lot in big matches, which I don't think is great, to be the Ring of Honor World Champion and lose as much as he loses.
I agree.
But oh my God, is he good. Yeah. Like, he is one of those guys that's not just sort of enhancement for the real top guys. He's a legitimate guy that could possibly win. And I agree with you, Ben. I thought Kyle Fletcher was going to win the whole time, but there was a seed of doubt. Like, there was a little tiny part of me that was like, well, Bandito could win this match. And I think that's all you need with a guy like that. This, fantastic. I loved the going for the 21 plex is not my favorite setup. We've talked about that before.
Yeah.
That a wrestler's got to be in the perfect situation all the time to take that 21 plex. But the adaptation of the German 21 plex in this match, unbelievable.
Yeah, well done.
Well,
Super
well done. So, Kyle Fletcher retains, but when you watch this guy, everything about him is a star. From the moment he comes out to the moment he leaves, and he handles himself that way, he's going to be, if they want him to be and he stays healthy, he's going to be a very big part of the main event scene for a long, long time in AEW. Chris Holski, was this your favorite match of the night?
Yeah, I think it was match of the night, and I am so impressed with. Reflecting back on the last time that we saw Kyle Fletcher live at an AEW pay-per-view at All Out against Hangman Page, that was also a fantastic match. But I think there's a big difference in terms of Fletcher's performance even from then and now. Back when he competed against Hangman at All Out, he was following the leader during the course of that. Now, granted, if you're having a great match, it does take two pieces. The biggest difference with tonight's title defense is Protostar Kyle Fletcher. He was the person who was dictating the flow of that match from start to finish. He was the one who was in control, and he's shown a lot of improvement with his performance for somebody who was already very good in ways that you start to see. This is what impresses me the most about Fletcher right now. He seems that he's well beyond his experience when it comes to what he's doing when it comes to leading the crowd. It wasn't just the crowd was responding to him. It's that he was responding to the crowd's response to him, and just that it builds like a snowball and going down the mountain. What was it that the fans were chanting all night in French? What was it? Pas gentil?
Yeah, pas gentil.
Yeah, I have no idea what that means. My favorite moment of the night was when Kyle Fletcher, when they were yelling it at him, he's pointing at all the fans going, I don't know what that means. That was great.
Yeah.
Fletcher, another thing he's very much improved on, and I think he really took advantage of this with Bandito, who's shorter than he is. Fletcher worked hard, I think, to make himself look a bit more physically imposing and maybe a little bit bigger than he actually was. And there was a great spot where he started asking Bandito to start slapping him in the chest a couple of times, and Fletcher barely sold either shot from Bandito, and then after those two chops, he just elbowed the fuck out of Bandito. Bandito did a great job at selling it, dropping like he fell to the mat just so quickly. And that was one thing I liked that they called back on that later on in that match, because later on he hits the same spot, he hits that same forearm, and Bandito doesn't go quite down as quickly, and he gets up a lot more quickly as well. I thought that was very well done, just one of those very little things, but yeah, that match was unbelievable. Start to finish, best of the night.
Tanner Reil, thoughts on this one?
Well, yeah, hard to follow that up. Yeah, fantastic match. I think this was also my match of the night. Both these guys rock. I'm very high on Fletcher as well. I think my take with him, maybe it's a little premature, but we can probably all agree Will Ospreay is the next AEW World Champion.
Yeah.
I think Kyle Fletcher is the next AEW World Heavyweight Champion.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's going to take it off of Ospreay, and it's going to be great. I think he's a star in the making, and I'm very high on him. Love Bandito too. Just the more I see him wrestle, the more I want to see him wrestle, and I'm glad he's getting featured more and more because I think he's also a star.
You go ahead, Zach. You look like you're chomping at the bit.
This is my favorite match of the night. I really like this match. Both these guys worked so well with each other. I continue to be impressed with Kyle Fletcher and the way, as Holski and the guys mentioned, in terms of the elevation, you're really starting to see him come into his own. And we've said it before. He's one of the top in-ring wrestlers in the world. The funny thing with Bandito, I think he's good. I think, in fact, he's very good. But he's the most, his peaks are so high, and yet I find his fundamentals to be lacking in some areas. I don't find him to be the smoothest wrestler, and yet some of his peaks and his high spots are just so incredible that I'm willing to overlook a lot of that stuff. All that to say, I think he's the perfect imperfect wrestler. Where I'm I don't know what's going to come next with him. I wonder if they put him in more matches here, because I'm trying to remember if it was either Ben or if it was Holski that said that it was clear that Fletcher was taking Bandito along.
Holski.
So I thought that was pretty noticeable as well. I think Bandito has such a high upside, but there's still some things kind of missing in his game to truly take him into that main event, because I think in-ring wise, he's right up there with a lot of those guys. But in terms of being a main event guy, there are still some things that he's kind of lacking before he can take that next step and be that sort of guy. But all that to say, I thought this was a tremendous match. I looked at Ben and I was tapping on my wrist and I'm like, inject this into my veins. This is what pro wrestling can be.
I have found with Kyle Fletcher, if we go back over the past year of reviews of the AEW shows, that no matter where he is on the card, he's third on the card, he's seventh on the card, he's first on the card, he's rarely last on the card, other than the one in Toronto last year, and that was kind of makeshift. We're usually saying that Kyle Fletcher's got the best match of the night.
Yeah.
And if it's not the best one, it's the second best one. And that impresses me a lot, especially, as was kind of previously said, coming off the heels of 4 great wrestlers that he had to do. And I really believe that, like Tanner said, that whether he's the next one, like, he's going to be in line and we're going to see him with that strap around his waist here at some point. All right, this is where the show goes a little awry. I mean the show in the van, not
Okay.
the show that we saw.
Okay.
Because I am not going around and listening to 6 takes of Clark Connors
No.
and Maya World and all of the next few matches.
This was a considerable dip, I thought.
Okay, I did too. but
I'll give a quick hitter. So, first of all, why are you trying to sneak in a shillelagh in a chain match?
Oh, you were enraged by that.
Like, it's a chain match.
You heard me say that and you're stealing my take?
I told you this as well. Holski, did I not say,
Steve, did I
No,
not
the
say,
person who was most upset about it was Lee, without a doubt.
Thank
Yes.
you. I was
Yeah.
screaming about it.
yes,
And I
it was
sitting
something that also frustrated
far
me.
away from you.
Yes.
You have a chain match and you needed a shillelagh to win the match when a chain would hurt more than a shillelagh.
Yes.
And you had Marina Shafir come in to sneak in this shillelagh when you're perfectly legal to go out and get it.
Yep.
It was right there.
Yep.
Doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Yes.
I'll just sort of do if somebody has a thought, please.
Okay, so
Ben-
Jay
Ben's got a
White.
thought.
Okay,
Okay.
so if Jay White is going to wear white pants in a chain match, then those pants should be covered in blood by the time that it's over. There was
Agreed.
no juicing outside of Juice Robinson. Through the course of that match, somebody should have bled. It didn't happen.
Yeah. Anyways, Ben Soubliere.
This was my most disappointing match on the card. And the reason for it is we've seen really good tag matches with Juice Robinson and Switchblade. I think about that match at Collision before Forbidden Door in 2023. Think about their tag match against FTR. And so I was actually really looking forward to this match. And to kind of go along with what Holski said, I thought there'd be a little bit more hate to this match. And it just kind of felt like a match that was thrown onto the card and the stipulation was thrown in and they did their best to work within the stipulation, but who got over in this match? I don't think anybody did. I didn't think Jay White looked like as good as he should. I think Juice Robinson was okay in the match, but for the Dogs, the Dogs are missing some bite without Gabe Kidd. I think that as a tag team, they're okay. As a trio, I really like them. So I'm hoping that Gabe Kidd can get his visas issues worked out, and so that he can get back. I know he's in the G1, so he might not have been on the card anyways. But man, this for me was my most disappointing match, and it was one that I was actually looking forward to. So I really hope they can get this back on the rails in time for All In, because this was Switchblade's first pay-per-view match since World's End 2024.
Yeah.
So it's been a long time. He's had a long, difficult road back to recovery, and I really hope they can heat him back up, because in my opinion, he is still one of, a high-end talent in this company, still a fantastic wrestler, and still somebody that I think should be in your main event picture. And I really hope they can heat him back up and get him back there.
It's a little bit of the super fan there. I can tell you that I was...
Big Jay White guy.
No, but I was looking to that match... I was looking forward to that match the least of any match tonight. Maybe Sheeta and Maya World, but like I had no real draw to this match. And it lived up to all of that expectation. I got nothing out of this one. And so I would just put out the fact that, to your point, Ben, about Jay White, I don't think they've done a very good job at making David Finlay the leader of the group, of the Dogs. I thought they were going to. I think he's got a good look where he comes from, obviously, and his history with Jay White. Feel like he should be a bigger threat, and he feels like just another one of the guys out there. And I don't think that with Gabe Kidd when he's out there. So they haven't done a very good job with the Dogs, and so that in itself isn't good for Jay White.
So, question: Are the Dogs maybe just not that good? So you got to remember, like, David Finlay's like the last of the leaders of Bullet Club, and it was like well past its peak. He kind of just inherited the Bullet Club. Like, it's also possible David Finlay isn't as good as maybe we think he is, or we hope he is. And same thing with Clark Connors. Like, Clark Connors he's a good hand, but he is not a world beater.
No.
So you have Switchblade, how many matches has he had back? I think maybe 3. This is his 3rd match back. And you put him in a match with 2 guys that are just kind of okay. And maybe that's what you get. And maybe, like, for me, I think because of the stipulation, because I am a huge fan of dog collar matches, one of my favorite stipulations in all of pro wrestling. And when they said it was a strap match, or not a strap match, but a double chain match, I'm like, oh, well, that's close enough to a dog collar match. And it was nothing even close. It was more of it was a very gimmicky match. There was no hate in the match. And so I think, one, maybe the Dogs are not as good without Gabe Kidd, and, they're a little bit overhyped. And maybe there's still some room for development there for David Finlay. But I think more so, Jay White needs to get back into the rhythm and become Jay White again. King Switch.
King Switch. David Finlay, I think he is who I think he is. As to steal a Dennis Green quote, he is who I think he is. He's been there a long time. I think this is who he is. Let him off the chain. There you go. But yeah, I think this is who he is. I think these are who the Connors might have a little bit more opportunity to grow, but I think this is who Finlay is. And the match itself was just nothing special.
We have crossed into Ontario out of the province of Quebec at 1:05, 1:06 here in the morning.
Yes.
So after that, Maya World and Hikaru Shida for the TBS Women's Championship. I don't know.
Somebody get me into that
fine
room.
little TV match.
Get me into the room and let me know the reason this had to be 16 minutes long.
Yeah.
Somebody in that room tell me why, and you had to extend my time at the Bell Center. So I had 16 minutes wasted on an up-and-coming green wrestler, and 2026 Hikaru Shida in a 16-minute match. Can somebody... I really needed explanation
the
on that.
blood's starting to get boiling here.
I'm sitting here and I'm like, if you really want to move forward with Maya World, and she's got upside. She's green, but she's got upside. What good does this do to her to have her go out there and flail around, have the worst match on the card against a wrestler like Hikaru Shida, who hasn't, like, some would argue she hasn't really hit her peak ever, but if you want to say, 2021 AEW, 2020 AEW, well past at this point. Some of those strikes that she delivered in that match, I mean, So I need to understand the idea. If you're going to move forward with Maya World after what happened against the match against Mercedes Moné, which we've gone on this show and said, it was a very clear carry job for Mercedes Moné. One of the best carry jobs I think I've ever seen from a pro wrestler, if I'm being quite honest. But you're giving the vote of confidence to Maya World, say, look, we're continuing to move you forward and put you in this TBS championship spot. What does this actually do for her in terms of her development? I really like to be in that room and understand why you have me here for a near 5-hour main show card, and 16 minutes is dedicated to Maya World.
Well, it was clunky.
Yes.
It was not. I think, Steve, I use that word a lot when I was sitting beside you watching this match. I'm like, this match is just clunky. I don't have as big of a problem in putting Maya World on top, giving her the TBS championship, and letting her see what she can do with that title, because I can tell you who I don't want to see with it, and that's Hikaru Shida.
Yep.
So,
my whole thing is, how is this, other than giving the title on her, how does this actually benefit her growth? Going out there having bad matches with bad
You can say that she's going to get in the ring with better wrestlers and maybe take more of a lead in some of the matches because she's the champion.
Yep.
So that develops people and growth and everything else.
I want to see her grow, just for the record. I want to see, I think there's something there, but this was not the path to go down in my mind. So,
Chris Holski, thoughts on any of that? I did not like these two matches at all. I thought it really brought down the card, and I get the fact that the card started hot, ladder match, Ospreay, Moxley, Young Bucks, and then Fletcher and Bandito. It's going to be tough to follow that.
People need to go to concession sometime. So it's just like, you talk about the 16 minutes that match took. I think that Zach's rant took roughly about 16 minutes.
It just feels like it's late. Like we're suffering a little bit, right?
Frustrations.
Yeah, this was 6 hours of wrestling, and that did drag on too long. And frankly, I see better women's wrestling matches on NXT. So
that should get Zach fired up.
Well,
did you watch NXT?
No,
Okay.
you couldn't catch me dead watching that program. But I do.
Kendall
There are
Gray.
wrestling. I am a Kendall Gray guy, so yes, I'm pretty confident Kendall Gray would have had a better match at the spot. So,
you guys can remind me. I think the Painmaker and Ciampa was next.
No, the next one was
Cope
Cage
and
Cope.
Christian.
Oh,
Cage and Cope.
Cage and Cope, defending their World Tag Team Championships. And Zach coming out first. How do we feel about Cage and Cope? I'm a little sour on them right now.
I'm actually kind of surprised to hear you say that. I will admit something here on this podcast. I did step out during the Cope entrance. I've had my fill of my sing-along with the entrance. So,
Well, it didn't happen. So,
but it got cut off in the end, so it didn't matter in the end.
Pac and Claudio. I didn't like this match for a whole bunch of reasons. Number one, I never believed that Pac and Claudio did anything to earn a tag team title shot. Nothing. Cage and Cope coming out. They get attacked from behind. Christian's kind of late to get there, and the first 10 minutes of this match was either Christian or Edge sitting on the outside for 5 minutes long while the other two were tagging, and I just was like, what is entertaining about this right now?
Are you starting to pick up on the pattern of their style of match, is kind of what you're saying here?
Well, I think I was okay with their pattern a little bit more than I am now. Tanner, how do you feel about this? So Cage and Cope retain, and I think we knew that was probably going to be the case, but I was very underwhelmed with this match.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I like Claudio and I like Pac just fine. I never thought for a second that they were going to win the tag team championships. Some moments in this match, but it felt a little clunky, if I'm being honest. I think I am starting to sour a little bit as well on Cope and Cage, and I'm all for them having their final run, but I'm not sure how much longer I really want that to be.
Yeah.
And sucks to say that, but I am excited for the Young Bucks match, which obviously was set up at the end there. But for this one itself, it was kind of forgettable for the most part.
I will say I thought the crowd was hot for this because it is Cage and Cope Canadians in Canada. There were some spots that I think got the crowd up on their feet. I didn't think it was... Maybe I'm a little higher on the match, and I'm somebody that I think I've been out on Cope, I think, longer than people... I don't want to say out, but I've been more down on Cope than I think people have been. But having said all that, I thought it was a solid enough match. But like what you all said, like, there wasn't a point where I was thinking, oh, this is going to be big old title change over here or anything like that. So
Yeah, like the champions just don't seem very like assertive or have their time where they're dominating a match. You had a team that really doesn't they're part of a group, but they really don't team together all that much, like in the tag team division. Why they were getting a shot, I don't know. I think... Oh, Ben has something to say.
Yeah, nothing too groundbreaking, but I thought I heard Steve kind of say early on that he's like, you know, a lot of these wrestlers kind of do the same sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I think I overheard that, and I thought the tag match was a little bit different than what you'd seen. And I think it was like old school tag, like one guy gets forced to the outside, you cut him off, and there was like a lot of like old school tag team mentality there. And I didn't mind it in terms of like the change of pace. Like it wasn't all out action like Bandito and Kyle Fletcher or the tag match or the ladder match. It was a little bit slower. There was a little bit more nuance to what they were trying to do in the match. And while I agree, like I think like the sun is setting on Cope and Cage, I would have preferred something more of a farewell tour where they list off their greatest hits and they say like, hey, we're gonna keep defending these titles against like the best teams that are available until the wheels fall off. And I think that's a simple enough storyline, kind of like what happened with Sting, where just let them line people up. You don't even need that many storylines. Just say like, we want to face the best people, and here's who it's going to be. And so to have like, what was it, last pay-per-view they faced the Dogs on pay-per-view?
Yeah.
And now it's Claudio and Pac. Like, I wish there was other tag teams that we could see them go against, and the Young Bucks get them back on track. So for me, I didn't mind the match itself. I thought actually the crowd work was good. I thought there was some good tag team classic psychology there. It was very different than the majority of the matches on this card. But yeah, the sun is setting on Cope and Cage. I'll be very sad. They're my favorite tag team of all time. And but I didn't mind it. Like, out of all things, like, I wouldn't have picked Claudio and Pac to be their opponents. I would have tried to hit something in terms of like a bucket list of tag teams to have them go against. Right. But I didn't mind the match.
So,
did the match need to be on this pay-per-view? No.
Right.
I think the match actually helped the pay-per-view a lot. Just in terms of its just in terms of its timing, right? Because Cope and Christian are over, and after the previous two matches that we talked about, that crowd was fading fast, and getting Cope and Christian out there got the crowd back into it, and I think that was important.
yeah.
Was the match great? Not really, but the fans, they were cheering, they were standing, and that's something they hadn't done for roughly about an hour.
And just as a whole, I thought the crowd was great tonight.
Yep.
Because it was another very, very long show. And the crowd maintained momentum and energy when I didn't think they were going to. When I wasn't feeling it, the rest of the crowd kind of picked me up a little bit. So good on the Montreal crowd for doing it. I thought they kind of stayed with it all night, which is very difficult sometimes with these long shows. I think the thing that's most disappointing for me about Christian and Copeland and Edge is that they're so great at their character work, and like with some of the storylines and some of the ways that they interact with other teams. And right now, because they're the champs, they're just getting beat up. And they're just getting laid out. And there isn't really like this story following those guys right now.
Yeah.
It's just they got the belts and other teams are coming and laying them out.
The problem with Cope and Christian is that Edge and Christian were heels, and they were fantastic heels. They did everything in their power to get out of facing hard opponents. They would do everything they could to keep their titles, and it was like some of the most like logical booking. It's like, yeah, we want to keep our titles, we're just going to get disqualified. And then you would build from that, be like, okay, well, now it's a no disqualification match. And so I think what is missing from this tag team title run for me is that Edge and Christian were never great face tag team champions or tag team. They were the best when they were heels. And so to get kind of like twilight of your career Cope and Christian getting their asses kicked for 10 or 15 minutes isn't what I want to see them do. Now, are we going to see a full heel turn between now and Wembley? Probably not. But I would have loved for this last run for them to have been like the wily veteran heels that are clinging onto these titles. As much as I can also get behind that that star run of doing your greatest hits and checking off the bucket list. I think one of the reasons that it feels kind of, I don't want to say out of place because that's not it, but it feels kind of tired is this was never their bread and butter.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking about pacing, the next match got the pacing the crowd back into it. Chris Jericho, the Painmaker, against the Psycho Killer, Tommaso Ciampa. Oh, now we're okay.
This isn't Sing Along with The Rock.
It's not Sing Along with the Rougeos, which we didn't get to, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was surprised how much I liked this match. It had obviously a lot of different things with the violence. Holski, let's start with you. Just about your thoughts on the pucks.
Yeah.
The different things that they pulled out, because there was a lot of violence in this match.
Well, let's go back all the way to, a week and a half ago when we saw Jericho donning the Painmaker persona again, and my first reaction was, is this a joke? Now, what I did not expect was for Jericho and Ciampa to answer that question, is this a joke, by leaning into it. I thought this was more of a comedy match than it was a death match. It was a comedy match with death match elements to it. That took me by surprise, and it worked. It worked very, very well. When Ciampa brought a trash can into the ring and pulled a Bobby Orr jersey out of it and put it on with a hockey stick, with a UP doll, starting to beat the crap out of it using a hockey stick. That was amazing. It was great crowd manipulation. Jericho, the way that he reacted to it, I thought was fantastic. It got me on his side when I was so ready to cheer for Ciampa throughout the entire course of that match. Jericho, everything that he did, I thought had a bit of a comedic edge to it, even when he's bringing a mirror into the ring, and just the goofy look of the expression on his face as it's getting it done. I loved this. I think it was the second best match of the night.
Zach, who'd you pick?
I picked Tommaso Ciampa.
Okay.
Because I did it for the bit.
Did he win?
He did not win,
Oh, okay.
but I picked him because I did it for the bit.
All right. Good pick.
Yeah, well, look, it's the modern day Hulk Hogan. And, what he does now, the modern day Hulk Hogan, is that he has the guy kick out of his finishing move, including a super version of his finishing move with the thumbtacks on the elbow. And that's exactly what Hulk Hogan did. So, so here's the thing. When you watch something on wrestling TV and they're like, and you come away and you're like, wow, that's kind of the dumbest, stupidest thing I've ever seen. But Lee, it's all about having fun.
It is.
You just gotta have fun with it.
Sometimes you just need that fun.
Sure, your intelligence might have been insulted and you felt stupid afterwards and you wanted to hide your television screen from other people walking in. But Lee, you had fun.
Not this time. I didn't want to hide my television screen.
This is what a fun wrestling match could be. This is what fun can be, because guess what? I had fun. I like having fun. I'm a fun guy.
Are you?
I love having fun.
Are you
I
sure?
know it doesn't seem like
You
it.
sound so happy right now.
I'm elated. I'm having so much fun, and I had so much fun with this. I love me sports team heat. Getting the Boston Bruins jersey involved, the Bobby Orr jersey in there.
Yeah.
Having the Habs stuff was great.
And Jumpa is from Boston.
Yes, so it worked perfectly.
So that is,
Yeah.
it's not just a rival, it's where he's from.
Yeah, this was fun. I had fun. And yes, it was violent. You know, you're going to get your people that are going to wave their hands at it or whatever. But man, I had fun. And they did such a good job of getting the crowd involved in this. And some of the spots, I was like, oh my goodness. If we're going to get Terry Funk FMW version of Chris Jericho over the next little bit, then I'm all for it. This was so much fun. I had a blast. And like what you mentioned, it really brought the crowd right back into, like, I do think Coach Cage and Christian helped kind of start to bring it up. But I think it really got pushed forward even more with this Ciampa and Jericho match. This exceeded my expectations.
You know what we've done with the Adam Copeland, having to call him Adam Cope, is that now we say Cage and Christian,
Yes.
like you did. Didn't mention
It's
Copeland at all.
1:25 in the morning.
So
I continuously get attacked.
The listeners don't care.
I know.
They do not care. But
I had fun.
Okay.
That's what matters.
Tanner, Ben up front, anyone? The UP spot, yes or no, the best spot of the entire night?
I don't know about entire night. That might be Nick Wayne. I know we talked about it earlier for me.
Yeah.
But it was hilarious. And I think my favorite part even was afterwards when Ciampa was like out cold, unconscious, just bleeding, but leaning on it like a pillow.
That was amazing.
Incredible. But I like this match a lot more than I thought I would, and maybe I should have been higher on it because I'm a big Ciampa guy. But yeah, everything they did there and some of the props they brought in, the hockey pucks with thumbtacks stuck to them, just, yeah, a very good
Going
match.
for the pin on UP, I thought was fantastic.
Yes. The backbreaker on YouTube as well. It's great. I had a blast with this.
That's it. I think if you don't mind the violence, because there was some violent things in this match, but if you don't mind the violence, I can't remember a match that combined violence and comedy the way this did.
Mm-hmm.
And that it all worked. Like, I don't know that somebody watched that match and was like, I'm disgusted, I didn't have fun. The tacks in the head of Jericho,
Yep.
the visual of it stuck in the forehead, after you might not hear it right away, but we talked before we came about not doing spots to land on your face, Ben, with tacks. And then Jericho's got tacks all on his head. But Chris Jericho does win this one. Next, this is your brain gets a little fuzzy at this point.
Next up, just for you, Mr. Versage, Andrade El Idolo versus Mark Davis.
Yeah.
How you know?
How you know?
Because I think you looked it up.
Yes.
Is that why?
How you know?
Because you looked it up.
Well, how you know?
Because I watched you.
Can I just say before we get into the review, can I make some people mad with this, especially in this car?
Uh-oh.
It's very WWE-like of them to do this, eh? Get the one catchphrase and really drill it into the ground, and you get people chanting it in the building. It's a little WWE-ish.
Look, I'm going to give Ben some credit here because he's been pumping up Andrade on this show for a long time, and you and I have been poo-pooing him a little bit.
Yep.
And he is stepping up and being a very entertaining, very good wrestler.
And reliable. That's the big thing that I was looking for with him.
And at the top of the card, you can put him in with guys that are main event guys, and he does not Like, you don't fall down with him in the ring at all. So he's been there. Now, I don't understand the catchphrase. I don't know what it really means or why it connects with people. But if it does, great. I don't get the girl on the outside of the ring, which just continues week after week after week. Where is it going? It's been going on forever. I just don't get it.
Yeah.
I guess. But what I am getting is Andrade in the ring, and watching him in the ring, he's been very, very good. And I would say one of the more underrated, I know Steve and I were talking about, because the first match I ever let Steve watch in AEW to sort of get ready for this was Will Ospreay and Mark Davis. And immediately Steve said, that guy, the Australian guy. Yeah, cool story. What was it again? Blah, blah. Oh, yeah. I like him. He's good. And boy, is he, I don't want to say he's improved, but because maybe he was just good in not getting his opportunities and shots.
Mm-hmm.
But he's an entertaining guy too. I really like this match. Andrade is your new national champion. I guess the only thing at the end when you're trying to explain, because again, Steve was like, so the national champion, is that the kind of the heavyweight champion? Is it and
what's the difference?
Yeah, and you're kind of it's just another title. It's just, it was back years ago in the old NWA, and they brought it back, and I don't really know why. So, yes, he's the new national champion, but Mark Davis is showing on his own he can be someone that is really good in the ring and very watchable on his own, which coming out of the United Empire, I think he was the one that, at least for me, was I don't know if he's going to be able to make it after Ospreay and Fletcher come out. But I thought this one was really good. Andrade, Ben, why don't you talk about this one first? Your new national champion.
Yeah, this was my second favorite match on the card. I love Andrade. I've liked him for a long time. I think one of the reasons I like Andrade is because, kind of similar to when you're watching a prospect come up through the OHL or whatever developmental league, watching him where his character started in NXT, and then how he's kind of figured it out for a North American audience. This is a guy that used to wrestle under a mask, and he is so charismatic right now. I know not everybody, not even me, the how you know stuff is ridiculous. Just let the guy wrestle. And changing his theme song from his really cool badass theme to something a little, I don't know, poppier, catchier, whatever you want to call it. I don't need it, but he's so good in the ring, and you're getting to see his charisma. But this was a guy that started with a mask on, and so loses the mask in NXT, comes out with a fedora and a feather in his hat, and looked ridiculous. And we got to see the evolution of him, of figuring out how to work in North America. Well, not North America, for American television.
Yeah.
And for me, he would there was pieces there the whole time. It was I really hope this guy figures it out. And so to see that evolution has been awesome. I was really excited when he rejoined AEW, because I think he was absolutely wasted back in WWE when he went back. And when you hear about why he went back, and that he left on amicable terms with Tony Khan, he was in the Continental Classic, and then he worked with Miro, and everything seemed good. He was going back to try to save his marriage, is the way that I think that he put it. And for him to kind of air that laundry out there, to be it was never about the work, it was never about the company, it was all personal stuff. And then to see him come back and just be as successful as he's been, and have this kind of new positive energy about him, has been really good. And I think awesome for him and awesome for the product. Mark Davis is very different from everybody else on the roster. He's very rugged.
Yeah.
And I don't think you have a lot of rugged... You have a lot of finesse on the roster, and a lot of really hard-working people, hard-hitting guys. I don't think you have a lot of rugged guys on the roster. Maybe Moxley would be another one who's a little rugged like that too, but not in a clunky way. But everything he does looks like it either hurts or it looks real.
Yep.
And I think like his pile driver is one of those things where it's like it's not that much different than a normal pile driver, but the way that he does it and the way he hits it kind of out of nowhere is believable, and it just looks awesome. So like my secondary star of the night for this pay-per-view was Mark Davis. I thought he was awesome. I thought he made Andrade look good, and just every match he's in, he's like this credible threat. And it doesn't mean that he's going to win every match, but you look better for beating Mark Davis because he is credible. It's like Samoa Joe. You look at Samoa Joe, you beat Samoa Joe, you fight Samoa Joe, you have more credibility, and I think that's the type of person Mark Davis is. And I think it took him a little bit to find his rhythm after being off for such a long time and coming back, and then had some visa issues, and then so it took some time to get back into the rhythm. But I loved this match. I liked the contrasting styles. Andrade, I don't exactly know where the DM girls are storyline is going, but I think it's just letting him show off some of his natural charisma and seeing where it goes. The crowd was chanting in the straightest way possible for the man to pull off his pants.
Yeah, not one of my favorite chants, but
No.
but when you can get the fact that you're taking your pants off over with the crowd, that's
Look, I think my pants was off at the end, just with the way that it ended off the match. So, what?
nothing. Okay, just a quick thought, guys, on the titles. The national title
I have a thought on that.
and the TNT title
So
and the world title and the Continental Championship and the International Championship
trios.
and the Trios Championship and the Tag Team
Tag.
Championship. There's a lot of belts, guys.
yeah, so there's a couple things they need to do. One, the Continental Championship needs to be discontinued and have it be a Continental Cup, similar to something you do with the G1. Doesn't need to be another belt. Same with the Owen. The Owen doesn't need to be a belt. Get rid of those belts. But with the relationship with CMLL and the amount of lucha talent on this roster, would it not make sense to make the national title some sort of like lucha style rules match, or put some sort of focus on that? Because you look at this card. So your first match, you had Commander, Beast Mordos, and El Clone. Your third match, you had Bandito, you had Andrade, and there's tons of other guys on the roster too that you could kind of blend into this. Hechicero, and I feel like if you wanted to have it be something a little bit different, you could incorporate that in and have it be a title that kind of goes between both CMLL and
But wouldn't
AEW.
that be the international title?
That's what well, yeah, it would be something, but I think similar to like Ring of Honor having the pure title, like I think there needs to be something that distinguishes it, something with the rules or like how it gets defended, whatever it is. It needs a little something else to it, because the international, the national, the continental are all, and TNT are all kind of the same sort of thing. TNT a little bit different because it's supposed to be a TV title, and it's kind of that belt that like helps people kind of get up the ladder. But with somebody like Steve, who hasn't seen all these belts before, he doesn't know which one's more important than the other.
Right.
And what makes them different from everything else?
And how are they defended?
Yeah.
The Continental has Continental rules.
Yeah.
But as we've seen, they're not always
Following that
100%
rule set.
strictly enforced. So for me, collapsing titles is the way to go. I'm hoping at some point that's going to happen as they've trademarked the Continental Cup. But I would love to see something specifically for lucha rules, or something to incorporate CMLL on a more permanent basis than just, oh, the CMLL world title is held by Claudio for a couple of months and then he loses it to Hechicero.
Right.
I think we can all agree, guys, collapsing some of the titles. But they just brought the national title in the Continental one makes sense to go to a cup, but it just doesn't seem like they're gonna do this. I think guys love coming out with titles.
Yep.
And then title matches, when you can have title matches on every show you have.
Tony loves his title matches, and it's you can see it in New Japan sometimes as well too, where there's a lot of titles on their cards, and it's a simple way to add stakes to something.
Yeah.
It's not always effective, but it's a very simple way to be like, why does this matter?
Right.
Oh, well, the person is challenging for this championship.
All right, let's move on. Tanner, maybe a quick thought on the AEW Women's Championship. Tekla Willow Nightingale in the second last match of the night, and we got ourselves a new champion, as Willow Nightingale is your new AEW Women's Champion.
Yeah, a little bit torn with the result, I think, is just the biggest part of where I'm at with this one. I did take Willow on my scorecard because it did seem like AEW's kind of set on doing the Willow-Mercedes match at All In, but I just think Tekla's had such a great run that I kind of wanted her to get the reward of being that opponent for Mercedes at Wembley. But I thought the two of them had a solid to good match here on the pay-per-view. I think their styles clash pretty well. Tekla's just so creative in the ring with some of the stuff she does and playing into that spider persona and draping from the corner, and a lot of her offense I really enjoy. I just really hope she still gets a good spot at the pay-per-view. Maybe it's something to do with a Stardom talent at Wembley, because I think she's earned it. But I think Willow and Mercedes is also going to be quite fun.
Holski?
And it's unbelievable. I think Tekla's coming off the best month of her career, and all of a sudden she's not champion anymore. I think from a character standpoint, I think that's fine, though. I mean, the way that she'll react to losing the belt, I think, is going to be entertaining at the very least. Seeing Willow wrestle in person again, my God, I'm impressed by her offense, and just she hits hard. Her moves have impact. And that's not always something that you're going to see in the women's division.
I'm going to stop you here. I don't often do this, but twice Willow had Tekla in the corner. And when you say she hits hard, like hitting the turnbuckle hard, because she didn't even glance Tekla with her punches. I mean, they were some of the most embarrassing punches I've seen live in a long time.
I think he needs more power moves, though.
But
you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, okay, but like, this is your women's champion. Tekla doesn't do things like that.
Nope.
So I guess my point was like, twice, like she did it once. I'm like, oh Willow, and I even said to Steve like, oh Willow, like she's punching the corner and it looks terrible. Fine, and she went back and did it again, like 5 minutes later. I'm like, I don't need that.
No. My favorite spot of the match was Tekla locking in the Muda lock, and the way that she did that with just the creeping of a spider across the ring towards that. That was incredible. I think that, I think Tekla, again, just over what she's done over the course of the past few weeks, whether her appearance on commentary or even just her gloating just a few days ago about winning the Trios title. She is, I think, the most fascinating character I think that they have in the women's division right now, because of just how unpredictable she is at the moment. One thing I think that can be said about the match in terms of its overall quality, and I don't think this is going to be something that's very complimentary. We were in a section that was not very far away from Mercedes Moné when she was in one of the luxury suites. And once the crowd realized that Moné was there, our section was more interested in her being there than anything that was happening in the ring.
Always drives me insane.
But yeah, like Mercedes is the biggest women's star in the world.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna put her on and show people that she's there.
She made a lot of money to sit in that box.
Yes, make her appearance. I don't know. This goes back to, I'm not in the creative room, but I feel like there's a better way to do that where you're not taking away from the match and people are looking up and being like, oh, look, it's Mercedes. She's standing there menacingly looking at everybody. You know what I mean? Like
For sure.
I feel like there's a better way to do it. there was a part of me is like, oh, there you go, she's up there. But as you mentioned, everybody's like turning around and looking up and trying to get photos and whatnot. So I don't blame them. It's just how they've set up the shot and whatnot.
So Willow Nightingale is your new AEW Women's Champion, and I like everybody. I think Tanner said it. I'm very concerned about what they're going to do with Tekla to keep her hot, because she's been one of the most entertaining people on their show for months now. So I hope that they're able to keep her near the top, and we'll see. I know Willow and Mercedes, it's what they've wanted to do. I guess I would ask you guys, before we move on to the main event, is it what you guys want to see? Just because it's what AEW is pointing to. I find this Willow thing, I know we mentioned it on the last show, I find it odd. She loses the TBS title, she has to give it up, she's hurt, takes them a while to figure out how they're going to get that TBS title to somebody else. They finally do, to Hikaru Shida, and then the very next week Willow comes back and she's healthy. And you're like, well, why would you do it like that if... Why would you ever take the belt off of her?
Yeah.
But they obviously wanted to get it off of her so they could put the world title on her without her having to lose, which I don't know that I love. Mercedes and Willow, do you guys think it's going to be a good match?
Oh,
Coming
yes.
It'll be fine.
I think that'll be a strong match. I'm more worried about... I'm not as worried about Tekla maintaining her heat. They're clearly building something with the Stardom thing that I think could culminate at... I will say, if she's not on that card somehow, some way, I think that's an absolute drop into the ball. But it's not like it's the only thing with the Women's Championship that Tekla's been doing. She's been doing stuff with Stardom. They've got the partnership. So if they wanted to do something at All In related to that as a way to kind of keep the momentum going for Tekla, I think that'll be all right. I think those two, in terms of Willow and Mercedes Moné, out of a lot of the Mercedes Moné matches, some of her best matches have been against Willow Nightingale. So I am not concerned about them having a great match. What I'm interested to know is how they're going to try and because I thought the build would have been Mercedes is the champion, Willow chasing after Mercedes, but it's flipped. So now you have Willow as the champion and Mercedes is chasing after. Yeah. And that's where I'm like, how are they going to make this work? I think there's a way to get there where you just have established, if I am to truly legitimize myself as the women's champion, I got to beat some of the best, and in order to do so, I got to beat Mercedes Moné. And in the case of Mercedes Moné, she's still chasing after that first women's title. So there's a way to do it, but I'm interested to see how they're able to navigate that, because I feel like the roles should be reversed.
All right, let's get to the main event. Kenny by God Omega, Kevin Knight, the TNT champion, going after the World Championship. Ben, let's get some thoughts from you, if we can, from Tanner. I don't know that we'll be able to, but Zach, let's get your thoughts first of all on the presentation of what the main event looked like before we get to the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of coming in, it was kind of what you would usually see with an AEW pay-per-view main events, just from a live perspective. And I thought there was a lot of elements of they were trying to make Kevin Knight a legitimate contender, all throughout, and just from the match to the presentation of Kevin Knight, it was clear that they wanted to establish that he can be a guy. Now the story going in was, Kenny saying, I'm at a certain level and you have to show that you could be at that level. And I think that's a good story in more ways than one. So in terms of presentation and going in and making it feel like a big main event, I definitely felt it. And it was something that I think they needed to show, especially when you're coming in, so long into the show.
Did you believe that, Holski, about like Kevin Knight in the main event when it was presented in front of you? Did you believe it?
This is wrong place, wrong time. And I gotta ask the question, of the 8,000, I'd estimate people that were in that arena tonight, was there a single person who believed that Kevin Knight had a chance at winning that match? I don't think so. And I think that negatively impacted the match. And there was definitely, I can't say for certain whether or not all the heat that Knight was getting was just, just straight up booking, or whether it was also just a rejection of the match that was taking place. I think the crowd, to its credit, they did not completely turn on it, so I'll say that. It was what I expected, frankly, that match. I expected it to be technically proficient, though not necessarily dramatic, because it felt like it had no stakes, that there was no chance that we were going to see anything other than a Kenny Omega match. And even if we did see a good performance from Kevin Knight, if you don't have that added dramatic edge to it, then I don't think you're going to get the full benefit of anything that's out there. Look, everybody knows, especially the people at TSN and the social pages, that what was supposed to happen at this show tonight originally, before MJF dealt with injury problems, and by the way, no qualms with the decision that was made to get the belt off of MJF early so that he could go and recover from injury. Everybody knew that the original plan was for Kenny Omega to win the title tonight, for something truly memorable to happen. And the match that was set up as a replacement was just not good enough, was not going to cut it. It was completely lacking in drama because of the lack of stakes involved, or the lack of something that could have been actually truly special with this.
What would you have put there instead, if knowing they had to rush it and get the title off of MJF? What would you have done?
Okada, without a doubt, because just the idea itself, regardless of the stakes there, if you're going to tell people in Montreal, hey, you're going to get it to see a Kenny Omega versus Okada match, then people will lose their minds just over being in the building for that to happen in the first place. I thought the crowd, to its credit, they were hot throughout the course of it. I'm not sure whether they were completely hot for the right reasons, but what I would point out with that match is just like, how did everybody feel from a dramatic standpoint for anything that happened during that match versus everything that happened after the match, where you were on the edge of your seat and you were holding your breath for the show closing angle, versus a match where every time that we saw Kevin Knight kick out of a big move, I thought, okay, so 3 more and then maybe Omega will pin him that time.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, Ben, just some thoughts on the presentation?
Yeah, I was...
Didn't expect that.
I was really hoping that this was not going to be the main event in Montreal. There was rumors that they were considering giving Kevin Knight a main event spot, and as soon as I heard that, I said, oh no, that's probably Montreal, because at least when Fightful says something, it's usually sooner rather than later. They'll say like, oh, somebody's close to returning, and then they return the next week.
Yeah.
So like, if Fightful's reporting it, it's probably happening. They've got some pretty good inside information coming to them that's being passed along. And so when they said it was Kevin Knight, I said, there's so many more people on the roster that I would rather have Kenny Omega faced. Okada being, number one with a bullet in that situation. But there was so many other guys, even Andrade, Kyle Fletcher. Kevin Knight might get there at some point. Like, you look at a guy like Swerve when he came into AEW, and like presentation wise, he looked like a star the first second he kind of got in there, but it still took him a little bit for him to find his footing. Now, Kevin Knight's a really good wrestler, and I think the ceiling is there. I just don't know if he'll ever put it together and ever be a credible main event guy.
Now, I guess the question would be, like Kyle Fletcher last year in Toronto, if you have spots that kind of appear like this one did, it wasn't planned, putting a younger talent in to see if they can hold up to that standard, is that a good thing? I would say yes, it is. like they had to pivot. They went to a younger talent. Again, I'm not a Kevin Knight guy. I was not excited that he was in the main event of this show. I just personally don't connect with him. But I do understand the philosophy of going, oh, we got to pivot. Let's put one of our younger guys that we think can be there to get the experience, because maybe that propels Kevin Knight tonight into what he's going to do in the next 6 months or a year.
At the in the main event of a pay-per-view, and not on Dynamite, and not on Collision.
Where are these opportunities going to come up?
They did that with Kyle Fletcher.
Yeah, the thing is that when Kyle Fletcher wrestled Hangman Page and didn't have, All In as a pending as a shadow for it, there was at least some minuscule chance, or at least some possibility that perhaps Kyle Fletcher could have defeated Hangman Page. There was no chance that Kevin Knight was going to win that match tonight.
Okay,
no one thought that was possible.
Are we arguing about like 0% and 1%? Because
There's a big difference between 0 and 1%.
There wasn't a bigger, nobody thought Hangman or Kyle Fletcher was winning the world title last year.
I'm going to bring a different perspective to the match. I agree, stakes-wise, it wasn't there, but I think it's being viewed in the wrong lens. So the way I went into this match, was I thinking Kenny was going to lose? Probably not, but I don't think that was the point of the match, based on the build and what they were able to do. If you want to try to establish a guy and get a guy going, this is probably the opportunity to do it. Do I love it? I do not. I tend to agree with Lee here in the sense that you've got an opportunity here where you could try to legitimize a guy, or at least build up his public persona and what you believe in the guy, and an opportunity to really elevate his profile
and give him a ton of experience.
Exactly. And clearly Kevin Knight is a guy that Tony Khan really likes and wants to go behind and push. There was the interview he said recently where there's like 4 wrestlers that he would consider like new pillars, which number one, let's just go away with pillars just altogether. But if you're going to continue with that, like Kevin Knight was one of those guys. And in this opportunity, I came into this, and whether right or wrong, I came into this saying, can Kevin Knight step up to the plate in a big spot like this, a pay-per-view main event, with how long the show went to? He's getting in there with Kenny Omega, and can he go out there and have a pay-per-view main event? And I will say this right now, I thought he did.
Did he make you believe that he could win that match?
No.
But that's not. He failed.
No,
I'm sorry.
No,
I'm sorry. It's just like you. It's just like you go out there. You have to make it look like that. You have to convince people, especially if you're trying to make that shot.
Disagree.
You have to convince people into thinking that you can win that match.
1:57 a.m. We finally get a little
little spark,
a little contention here in the band.
So I disagree in the sense that, like, he was somebody that people knew coming in that is like, can he even go toe to toe with Kenny Omega? That's what the story was. And at the end of the day, look, did I think he was going to win the match? No. And I do like having my title matches with stakes. But I was looking at it through the lens of, can he be a guy that could be in that mix? Because he's not ready yet. He's not ready to be a main player just quite yet. But can he get there? I thought he showed he could. And is it going to be next year or 2 years from now? Like, my biggest takeaways with Kevin Knight is when you compare him side by side with Kenny Omega is a significantly bigger dude compared to Kevin Knight. And I think it showed, like, okay, here are the things that you need to improve on with Kevin Knight. So while I agree with you, stakes-wise, it could have been much higher, it could have been much better. I still think there was a different goal in mind in doing this main event. Can he go out there and deliver in that spot with the Kenny Omega and have a good pay-per-view main event? And I think he did. So,
I want to say, and I think this is important right now, I don't want to completely fault Kevin Knight. I mean, even when I say, he couldn't convince anybody that he was going to win tonight. I think anybody in a similar situation as him was not going to do the same thing. I think that the blame for being in a situation where you're going out there and you can't convince anybody in that arena or anybody watching at home that you're going to win that match, that's not on the back of Kevin Knight. That's on the back of Tony Khan. It's on the back of the writing staff. It's on the back of whoever booked the show, because that's not a good position for him to be put into in the first place.
So I'm actually going to come and say I kind of agree with Both of you guys.
Safety Sam.
Yep, that's me. I do. So, for Holski's point, whether I thought Fletcher was going to win last year, during the match, was there points that I thought he could have? Yeah, maybe. I never really thought he was going to, but he did things in the match to make me believe. For Kevin Knight, today, he wrestled a really good match. I never thought he was going to win. I never believed it. And Kyle Fletcher's now carrying matches on his own against top guys. Is Kevin Knight going to do that because of this experience? Maybe. I wish they had probably not gone with Kevin Knight in this spot, because I didn't believe for 1 second that he was going to win, and he never did anything in the match to make me believe he was going to win.
I think that's the biggest difference between Fletcher and Hangman last year in Toronto and this match versus Kenny Omega, is that coming off the loss didn't hurt Kyle Fletcher.
Right.
He specifically said, he said, hey, Don Callis family, don't need you. I'm going to take on Hangman, and I am going to be the guy with 2 belts. And he took it to Hangman in that match. Like, there's some spots in that match, like the Deadeye off the turnbuckle, and a couple other crazy spots where Kyle Fletcher took but also gave in that match. And that was a hard-hitting, very evenly contested match. I didn't feel that way with Kevin Knight, especially at the end when he's taking, the knees to the chest and collapsing, and he got some okay spots in, but he didn't actually carry a lot of the offense in that match. It certainly wasn't 50-50, where I think the Hangman and Kyle Fletcher match was closer to that. And coming out of that match where he's challenging him and saying he's going to be 2 belts, jet 2 belts, whatever you want to call it, and then getting his lunch fed to him, and then being the afterthought of the big angle at the end, I think actually makes him look worse off than Kyle Fletcher was in a very similar spot. So where do you go from here? Well, he's still the TBS champion, which was the same spot that Kyle Fletcher was in, except that he's been completely overshadowed. Instead of us talking about how good of a performance it was and it being anywhere close to match of the night, the more memorable thing is the angle. So instead of utilizing a match, let's say a main event on Collision or Dynamite, to say like, oh yeah, he carried a main event on a TV show and he looked really good in the process, instead it's going to be a not very memorable match between himself and Omega, and it's going to be overshadowed by the angle at the end.
All right, so let's talk about the angle at the end. Kenny Omega defeats Kevin Knight and retains the AEW championship and gets attacked by the Death Riders. Death Riders are out. Young Bucks come out. They don't really do a lot. And then Will Ospreay comes out. He came out and said, no, you're not going to do this. The chair was around the neck of Kenny Omega. You're not going to do this to him. John Moxley comes in, kind of settles that conversation down, takes the chair away from Will Ospreay. Now they're just talking, and all of a sudden he brings out the paper bag. And the crowd kind of went, ooh, like Bryan Danielson, we remember. Handed Will Ospreay the paper bag. Will Ospreay tears the paper bag up.
Plastic.
Plastic bag. Thank you. It's 2 a.m. tears the plastic bag up, leaves it there, says, I'm not doing this, hits Jon Moxley for the first time. It was like that physical contact between Will Ospreay and Jon Moxley. And then the Death Riders leave, and you think everything's going to be A-okay. And he gets Kenny Omega up. Kenny Omega's looking a little bit confused. And then all of a sudden, as they're shaking hands, and okay, we're going to be in the main event of All In coming up at Wembley, Kenny Omega hits the One-Winged Angel on Will Ospreay. Let's start with you, Chris Holski. What did you think of the main event angle and all of the stuff that happened after Kevin Knight left? And that ended up being, on the road to All In here with Kenny Omega, Will Ospreay, and now there is a little bit of contention already.
Despite being a bit irked about how Redemption felt like a bump in the road card, my God, after seeing that, do I want to see All In? Oh my God, that was so good. I thought I think every beat that they took after that was perfect. I'm glad that they didn't necessarily, I think, go, because I can understand why he did it. I'm not going to call that necessarily a Kenny Omega heel turn. But I think that putting that little bit of a villainous edge back on him before going into Wembley is a smart play, because really the crowd's going to be cheering for Ospreay anyhow, and I can understand. I'm sure we'll get an explanation eventually. I can understand the character motivation of Omega doing something like that. I expect to be able to balance it pretty well. The only question mark that I have is, okay, so where does this leave the Death Riders and Mox heading into this? And the only worry that I have is of Mox somehow being inserted into the match. I hope they don't do that.
Yeah, and all I say to that is, what's MJF and Swerve Strickland and Hangman Page and Jon Moxley, what are they all doing for All In? Like, I don't know what any of them are doing, so I don't worry about that necessarily. Tanner, the end angle you and Ben discuss up front.
Yeah, injected a bit of life, I guess, into that feud coming up. Makes things a little bit more interesting, kind of aligning Kenny up as more of the heel going into it against Ospreay, because I think Ospreay is going to be the fan favorite no matter what. Everyone wants to see him win the championship. Very small thing, but reminded me so much the way that Kenny picked him for the One-Winged Angel off the corner of when he did that to AJ Styles and kicked him out of the Bullet Club. Just a fun little callback, but
yeah.
Love that. And yeah, I'm just curious to see if it's going to lead to a more heel outright Kenny Omega, because I like heel Kenny Omega. I was watching a lot of how the Bucks reacted, and they seemed a little bit confused by it.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if it's going to be a full-fledged heel Kenny Omega, or if this is him, similar to Moxley, giving Will Ospreay a lesson that if you're going to be the AEW World Champion, you've got to have that killer instinct, and you've got to take your shot whenever that moment presents itself. Because Omega knows how to do that. He's done it twice now, and Ospreay just frankly hasn't. So is it him giving him a lesson, or are we getting heel Kenny Omega? Either way, I'm all for it.
Ben, I think there was a thought before that Jon Moxley was going to be inserted into all of this. Just your thoughts on how it all shaped up.
Yeah, I think so. Now that there's more pieces kind of in place, I think that this is very simple storytelling, and they've been doing a really good job with it, and it's actually years in the making. So in the first match with Kenny Omega, or not the first match, but the first match in AEW between Ospreay and Omega, Fletcher doesn't hesitate. He's got the Don Callis family in his back pocket. He hits him with the screwdriver, and he does it. He does it the Don Callis way. And then we have the match. Was it Danielson where he was going to hit the Tiger Driver?
Hit the Tiger Driver on Danielson.
Yeah, but there was another match before that where he didn't, right?
Something.
and he
moves on.
opted not to hit him with it.
Right.
And then it was this whole like, no, you gotta hit him with it. And the Don Callis family's like, no, you gotta hit him with it. And eventually he does hit him with it, and that storyline kind of plays off. And then with this feud, it's Moxley's in his ear telling him, no, you need to change in order to win. You need to be somebody else in order to win. And I've hated Will Ospreay in the Death Riders. I hate his gear. I hate how he changed his style. And it was annoying to me. Now, what I didn't realize is this was done on purpose, because we were seeing the influence of Jon Moxley in the Death Riders. But one of the things that makes Will Ospreay so likable, and Lee, you've mentioned this in the past, is that he's genuine. And I felt like this whole time with the Death Riders, it didn't click for me. It didn't fit. The Death Riders are not the good guys. And Will Ospreay is the shining white knight. And he's the guy that everybody can get behind. And I think the story that they're telling here is that Will Ospreay needs to go out there and win it as Will Ospreay, not as anybody else. Not as Don Callis family interfering, not as somebody telling him to hit the Tiger Driver, not Moxley telling him that he needs to be somebody else in order to do it. He needs to just do it himself. And I think that's where they're going with this. And Kenny Omega attacking him at the end is because Kenny Omega still wants to be the guy. And he's not going to let any version of Will Ospreay just take the title. And I think it's a little bit more drawn out and actually more nuanced than I initially thought it was. But like big picture, it's very simple storytelling in the sense of everybody's been in Ospreay's ears for years. But what got the crowd behind Ospreay was him being himself and him being genuine. And it's going to take him coming back to that to win the title in Wembley.
Bravo.
There you go.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that's well reasoned for sure about, what they're going to be able to do. Like, he's gone through all these phases, and the last phase is him coming back to himself to be able to do it. Zach, your thoughts on the last angle and how it all sets up here?
Thought they did this well. I think it became more clear as the show went on. One of the things that they also showed was that little behind-the-scenes backstage interview with Renee as well. They kind of played this stuff, and it made more sense why that match was second, the tag match with the Bucks, because they progressed this storyline throughout the show that culminated with that closing angle. So I thought the way that they built to that made a lot more sense as the show went on, because if you were to have asked me before going on the show, I was thinking that we were going to be sticking with this Moxley stuff with Ospreay and the Death Riders up until All In, but they pulled the trigger on having him be out of the Death Riders at the end of this show. So I thought the way that they built to that was good. I thought the closing angle was well done, and now the big thing now is you've set up the heat between Ospreay and Omega to kind of get them locked in. You already knew you were going to get a great match, and you already knew they were going to be the main event. Now they've kind of locked you into, okay, how do these two not like each other, or is there like a mutual respect? Because, and I haven't looked onto social media or anything like that, but I wonder if that attack, similar to what Ben was alluding to, was more of this is a lesson to get you to the next level if you're Will Ospreay. So interested to see where it goes, and I am excited to see where it goes between Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay up into All In.
Do we think the Death Riders are going to be involved in the build-up to All In with the title picture, or are they now out?
I think they'll still be involved.
Is there maybe a match that attempts to muddle with what's laid out at All In at Grand Slam Mexico? Like, I could see them doing something where maybe they tease something that could insert Mox into the match in some form, but then they stop it there and essentially cut that away.
I just don't love the idea of I'm a big Jon Moxley guy. I got his shirt at the merch stand today. I'm a Mox guy, but I have always been a proponent of the big one-on-one singles match to main event your giant stadium show. If they're going to insert Mox into this, I think it would be a mistake. I think you'll have your AEW fan base that will be accepting of it, but I wouldn't be too thrilled with that. But it does lead the question of what are they going to do at Wembley?
So before this show, I was pretty certain they were inserting Moxley into this match. And I thought that it would be... I actually misjudged what the story was. I thought it was going to be about how Moxley was a snake and was trying to pull the wool over Will's eyes and insert himself into this feud and into the match, when in actuality it was about Ospreay's journey. So even though I was kind of right in the sense of, like, I thought that the Death Riders would turn on Will Ospreay, they turned on him because he turned on them, which is a big distinction. So I feel like while Moxley has been very important to this storyline, he was important to help define who Will Ospreay is. He's not actually of consequence in the match itself anymore. So I've kind of, over the course of 5 hours or however long the show was, I've actually flipped from I'm pretty sure Moxley is going to get inserted into this match into no, he's actually not in this match. This is not his story. He just helped Will Ospreay get to where he needed to go, and then they'll find something else for Moxley.
Yeah, I think they can always go back to Ospreay and Moxley at some other point.
Yep.
But I don't see it involving the main event now. For me, it's one of the main events I'll look forward to the most of any main events that I have in a long time. Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega for the title should be great. What does John Moxley do? That's probably for another show at another time. Like I said, we don't have answers to Swerve Strickland and Darby Allin, and so there's some big stars at this show that were not there tonight. I would say at least half of their main roster top 10 guys were not there. Between MJF and Swerve and Darby Allin and Hangman Page, that's 4 guys right there that are right at the top of the card. So it's an interesting path now to August 30th when they get there for All In, and what everybody's going to be doing and how they're going to get people to buy in. They got about 5 weeks of television to be able to do that, and then we will see. All right, I'm going to go around and ask for people's kind of final thoughts and maybe a number out of 10 on this AEW Redemption card. Chris Holski.
I'll give it a 7, and I don't mean that as that's a high 7. I had a great time. I think that the standards for AEW pay-per-views, and it's a credit to them for the reputation they've carved out, they are very, very high. I think that frankly, that was a substandard AEW pay-per-view, but it was still a fantastic pay-per-view and a fun 5 hours, and that's the first time that I can actually say of the 3 that I've been at live that by the end I did not feel worn out. So, despite what we thought was some weird pacing off the top, I think overall it was a well-paced show, and even after 6 hours of wrestling, I was gripped by what was happening at the end of the show. So 7 out of 10, but a positive 7 out of 10.
Tanner.
I'm pretty close to that as well. I might go down to a 6.5, but did feel a little bit jaded going in just with the card that we ended up getting. Felt a little bit filler-esque and more of just a stopgap on the road to All In, but a good chunk of the matches did deliver, especially early on in the card. Definitely a little bit of a dip, though, afterwards, and some of the ones that I think we expected that to be the case with. Still, though, I think anytime you're there in person, it's going to be even better, and you're going to be higher on a lot of the matches that you see. Definitely some that I'm going to remember, and some that I certainly will not. And yeah, like Chris said, the standard is just so high with these AEW pay-per-views. It's the thing that they consistently do the best, and I don't think this is going to be among the best or among one that we're going to be talking about as a show of the year contender come December. So I'm going to stick with my 6.5.
Really looking forward to the super fans number on the show?
I'm at like a 7.5, somewhere between 7 and 7.5. Some really good highs. Really enjoyed the Kyle Fletcher Bandito match. Really enjoyed the Mark Davis and Andrade match. So like there was some really really good matches on the card. But I feel like it's funny you guys all really enjoyed the Jericho match, and that was probably one of the matches I didn't actually enjoy on the card, just because I felt like I've seen it before. Specifically, Cope and Christian's match was similar in the hockey jerseys and all that sort of stuff, but so I'd have to like look and see how I average it out when I rank the actual like matches individually. But I think it's like a solid, somewhere like a B plus, like a low B plus.
Sorry, when people say B plus, how is it a low B plus? Isn't that like a B? Or like a B minus?
Yeah.
Okay. Because B plus to me is like 79.
Yeah.
7.9.
So what's 75? What's
That's
75?
that's a B.
That's a B.
Okay, so then I'm around a B.
That's a B.
Okay.
You got a number, Steve MacKenzie?
78.
Oh,
Whoa.
7.8.
That's
like
a B
it.
plus.
That's a B plus. You should.
That's my personal. Like,
Of
I know.
course.
That's all we're asking.
Like
Yeah.
as a first time viewer of an AEW pay per view, how did you feel the experience was for you just kind of coming in?
No, like I liked it. Like like I said, the wrestling, the wrestling was better than I thought it would be. Like from what the sample size that Leah's, but a few times I've been, it was kind of what I was hoping it would be with the wrestling that I used to like to watch, and I got a good taste of that, and with everything else, storylines aside. I'm gonna watch again, so therefore I think they deserve a
Victory.
yeah, exactly.
Yep, there you go.
But they like all of us, a little bit of work, go polish this, fix that. But overall, yeah, I'd go back. Good product.
What I always told people is like when I did 4-hour radio shows, it's not all 4 hours of greatness, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, you get a couple of good segments in there, and
Yeah.
Fill the rest.
Zach McGibbon, your number.
I'm at a 7.25. I enjoyed the show. I'm going to be a little bit more critical of the length here. I think 5 hours is too long for a show. Even with a lot of the good stuff that we had, I can look and go with like a pen and be like, I can cut time here, I can cut time here, I can cut time here. I think 5 hours is too long. And I think if Tony's going to sit here and talk about moving the show back an hour and think that it was still acceptable, I think he's missing the point why people wanted it to move back an hour, because it should still end at a reasonable time. So that's more of a minor gripe for me. But in terms of the actual wrestling on the show, I thought it was solid. There was really only 2 matches that really didn't hit for me. Everything else was from at worst solid to at best like really, really good. And yeah, AEW pay-per-views, it's funny, like a 7.25 for an AEW pay-per-view seems low, but it's like other companies dream to have a quality of a card that they would put together. So all that to say, like what has been mentioned in the vehicle, this is not a show of the year contender at the end of the year.
No.
This did feel in some cases like, because they set up a lot of stuff for All In later, that they were really trying to set up for their big pay-per-view later on. But for what we got here, I enjoyed it. I give it a 7.25.
All right, and I'll finish up, and you guys will like this. I'm going to give it a 6.9.
Nice.
Nice.
Very nice.
Thank you.
What prevents it from getting to 7?
So what prevents it even from getting to the 7 is it started out well. I didn't love the ladder match, but the excitement with a ladder match, there's just a lot going on. The next 2 matches I thought were fantastic. But after that, it dipped for me, and it dipped pretty hard. The chain match, Maya World and Sheeta, and then my big problem with it is, yes, we got the angle at the end, but the last two matches, AEW Women's World Title, AEW Men's World Title, those are supposed to be your best matches. And both of those matches were not in my top three top matches of the entire night. And those are your main events. Those are your world titles. Those are the ones that have the focus. And I totally agree with you about length. Still too long. I mean, you didn't have a bunch of stars and you still went that long.
Yeah.
Just because you moved it back an hour, you still went 5 hours.
Yeah.
And
if you're giving me 5 hours, I need at least 2 match of the year contenders. At the
yes, and you need, yeah.
And I didn't get that.
But you need MJF and Swerve and all of the, like, and Darby and Hangman and all of those top guys, and none of them were there. And that's fine. Not every show's going to have every guy, but it's another 5-hour show. And quite frankly, the last two matches were very unmemorable. And so that's where it gets down for me. I did enjoy it, but this is a card that I wouldn't recommend people go back and watch, other than me just kind of selecting a match or two out of it and then recommending it. Where there are other ones, I just had a guy come up to me the other day, Brandon, Steve, good old Brandon, said, which show should I watch? I said, you watch AEW Revolution and you get back to me, the one in March, because I love that card.
Great card.
This one was one we just had a couple of matches that I would tell people, yeah, you should watch the Bandito Kyle Fletcher match. If you want comedy plus violence, I would watch the Chris Jericho Tommaso Ciampa. But I didn't think that this was, and they're against their own bar, right? So their bar for me is pretty high, and it did not exceed or get close to that bar. So it's a 6.9.
Another highlight for me, just quickly, because we haven't had a chance to talk about, we're kind of getting close to the end. It was great to see Jacques Rougeau get booed and finally kind of get what's coming to him after all the stuff that he's done on the indies. Raymond got some nice cheers, but Jacques, and you could tell Jacques, I don't think he was expecting the amount of boos that he got, so that was nice.
So just want to say thank you for all of you listening. First of all, it is currently 2:26 a.m. pulling into Barhaven right now. Ben Soubliere, a great driver. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ben.
For
Thank you, Ben.
all of that.
Thanks, Ben.
Chris Holski, fantastic. Tanner Reil, unbelievable. Steve MacKenzie, good perspective from you. Different, and Zach, you were just all right.
I knew that's where it was going.
Well, you were okay. You were kind of like this card. You were there. There was a couple of tiny little things.
I got fired up at some moments, and then
you know what? You trying to get the car fired up at 1:57 a.m.
somebody's got to do it.
You know what? You probably deserve more from me at that point, but you're not going to get it. So that's your
I feel like Jacques Rougeau right now. You can kiss my ass at the end.
That is your AEW Redemption finale. Thank you very much for listening to another edition of This Is Wrestling.